Now we're talking about some men's team golf as well.
Indeed, Jim Furyk is in the news. A big day for him. Let's go back first, because Furyk has been a notable and visible presence in the game for nearly 3 decades. The high point, of course, 20 years ago, won that U.S. Open at Olympia Fields outside of Chicago. Nice hug with his caddy Fluff. It was a 3-shot win on Father's Day. Jim's father and coach Mike was there. You see him there in the background with the glasses just behind Jim there. Jim really cemented himself as one of the best players of his generation. Another key milepost in his career, of course, being the U.S. Ryder Cup captain in 2018 in Paris. Turned out to be a tough week for the Americans. They fell to Europe 17.5 to 10.5. Well, Jim gets another bite of the apple today, so to speak, named captain for Team USA in the 2024 President's Cup, which will take place in September of next year at Royal Montreal Golf Club in Canada. As we see the news there on Twitter from the President's Cup handle. How about the bio? I would say it is robust. 17 wins in his career, including that U.S. Open. Shot 59 in the second round of the 2013 BMW. Shot 58 in the fourth round of the 2016 Travelers. Of course, was a Ryder Cup captain. First player on tour to shoot 58 and card 2 sub-60 rounds. And the captain joins us now. Jim, congratulations. The more you talk to players who have captained, who have played in these teams, they say there are events not to be missed, like summer camp without the Pinewood Derby. Why is this a role you wanted to take on?
It's an honor. I've enjoyed playing in the President's Cups, the Ryder Cups, my whole career. It was always at the top of my list for goals at the start of every season. And then, as that playing career starts to drift off, being a vice captain and a captain is really just, I love being around the team. I love the opportunity to be able to lead this team and get another opportunity. I had it in 2018 at the Ryder Cup and now in 24 for the President's Cup. So just super excited, and it was a great call to get.
Does it feel a little bit like destiny here, Jim? You and Mike Weir were both born on the very same day. You won your majors in the same year. Now you're captaining the American team against Mike's international team in his home country. It seems kind of preordained here.
Well, I think when you're thinking of a President's Cup in Canada, you have to pick Mike Weir, right? That's the easy choice. But Weirzy and I have been friends for a long time, and as you mentioned, the same birthdays, similar careers, similar styles of play. I'm looking forward to it. He's a good man and a friend, and I'm happy that we get to do this together.
Well, you were on the victorious team back in 2007 in Canada. What's going to be the biggest challenge of beating a Mike Weir-led team in Canada?
Well, I expect a lot of competition. The international teams had 2 pretty good showings. U.S. had to come back in Australia 3 years ago. The matches were pretty close in Charlotte and got really tight there on Sunday for a while at singles. So, I think really it'll be a lot of the crowd, right? We're on an away match, and Canadian fans are great sporting fans. They love their golf, and I can remember Mike and Tiger kind of having an epic singles match, and anyone that was on the course that day knew exactly where the Woods Weir match was because of the crowd, the cheering, the noise. So I think a lot of it's just most difficult. It's a great golf course, a difficult golf course, but probably being away and having 99% of the folks rooting against you and rooting for the international squad. That'll be the toughest part.
Jim, you mentioned 2018. I've covered you in victory and defeat. Spoke to you after you shot 58 in Connecticut. How much does that loss in 2018 still stay with you in Paris compared to maybe losing in a playoff or losing a PGA Tour event?
No, it definitely it's always difficult. Losing's never easy. I think for all of us, anyone that's a good player, I think you remember the losses. And the pain of losing is usually a lot tougher than the thrill of victory, if that makes sense. So I remember the losses throughout my career a lot more than the wins, and that one sticks with me. Can't go back and change it now, but obviously a disappointment. But also have a lot of good memories from that team and the 12 guys, and a lot of love for the effort they put in.
You can't go back and change it, Jim, but is there anything you took away from that week in terms of the captaincy or strategy that you're going to put into practice for the President's Cup that you think you wouldn't have known had it not been for that pain back in 2018?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the question that I got asked I got asked a lot through like the 2019 year in that season. If you had the chance, would you go back and do anything differently? And the question kind of made me laugh, because you'd have to be pretty darn arrogant to say, nope, I do everything the exact same. And, yeah, I would, hindsight's 2020. There's things that I would have done differently. And surely I think there was a lot of positives from the week as well. But, I'll take a lot from 18, 19. Every year that we've played, we kind of grow as an American team, and I'll learn some lessons from 18 that I'll apply in 24. Absolutely.
Since the task force and the Ryder Cup situation came up almost a decade ago now, Jim, we've seen a kind of a core group of guys who've been charged with developing some kind of consistent approach from one event to another for Team USA over the years. It's been you, Stricker, Davis, Love. And I know this question's easier to ask than it is to answer, but when do we see the next generation of leaders move into these roles?
Yeah, well, that's probably not a question for me. I'm not the one selecting the captains, but from the PGA of America side or from the PGA Tour side, I think we're going to see some fresh blood. I think certainly Zach Johnson, probably served as an assistant captain a couple times, and now the captain of the U.S. team in Rome. So, there's a little bit of a fresh look, and a guy surely that knows all of us very well, from Strick to Davis to myself to Tiger. He's been able to serve on a number of those teams. But, I think that's starting the process, and going forward, you're going to see that happen more and more. But, the goal for us, and what we talked a lot in that task force meeting the very first time, was really just trying to provide some symmetry from year to year. And the good news for us is we do get a Ryder Cup and a President's Cup every year. And so just trying to provide for the players that are fortunate enough, that are good enough to make those teams each and every year. Those teams should look somewhat similar, right? Every captain's going to have their own twist and their own style, but there should be a lot of symmetry in those teams that basically, makes those players comfortable, gives them the best opportunities to succeed.
Those are some tough days in 2014 at the end of that Ryder Cup. The task force was born, lampooned in some circles, mostly in Europe. I remember Lee Westwood kind of making fun of the name. Has the task force been successful in your estimation?
It definitely was not. I would probably have to agree with Lee. Probably not the greatest name ever chosen from the task force, but it was no different than what Europe had done in the past. Kind of getting a bunch of minds together, a lot of veteran players and captains, and what can we do to make this better in the future. I think it has been successful. I think in order for going to the Ryder Cup side, I think in order for the U.S. to take the next step, that team's going to have to win on foreign soil, which we haven't done in Europe for, close to 30 years, possibly. So in order for the U.S. team to be successful, for maybe to look back and say the task force was a success, I think it was. I think we've improved upon the team. We've had a little bit more consistency and symmetry throughout the years. But in order for that team to take the next step, it'll be surely winning on European soil.
Jim, Zach has faced a lot of questions about his team this year, about whether or not captain's picks may go to guys who now play on the LIV Golf circuit. Since the PGA Tour owns the President's Cup, it would seem unlikely that question is going to be as prevalent next year in your team. Do you think it's entirely off the table as a point of discussion as far as the President's Cup goes?
My understanding for both teams, whether it's Mike Weir or myself, it is, as you mentioned, it's a PGA Tour event. So if a player is not qualified to play in a PGA Tour event, they won't be qualified to play in the President's Cup. Again, something that's out of my hands, but I think you kind of knew it when you asked the question that would probably be the answer.
Though you mostly play on PGA Tour champions these days, Jim, in what ways have you remained connected to the younger generation?
It's amazing. Damon, you wake up one day and all of a sudden you're old enough to be everyone's father. So I played at the RBC Heritage this year. There was quite a few new faces, folks that I tried to meet up with. It just happens. I think I have a great relationship with a lot of the veterans of those President's Cup and Ryder Cup teams. Not only did I play alongside of them on some of those teams, but also been a captain or a vice captain for many of them. But there's going to be a bunch of young players and new faces, and I love that. I think I need to probably be on tour a little bit here and there and make myself available, and I want to see these guys, and you can bet I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to the PGA Tour for the next 15 months and watching a lot of golf.
Well, I know you're excited, Jim, and Canada's been very good to you, by the way. A couple of wins on the Canadian Open. So congratulations, Jim. Look forward to speaking to you down the road.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.